Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I wanted to do a step-by-step leveling guide of my Frost Lightning Sorcerer build in Diablo 4. I had an absolute blast using this from levels 1 to 50. I've shown off a ton of gameplay on the channel already, and so I had a lot of people asking me about this build, so here is the full breakdown. Starting off with Arc Lash, this is still a very good ability despite the recent nerfs, and enhanced Arc Lash second. From there, I'm moving down. I'm grabbing Chain Lightning. I like this ability a lot, especially for Ad Clear. And then Chain Lightning, Enhanced Chain Lightning, as well as Greater Chain Lightning for that additional damage. These are going to work so well early game. You're just going to be destroying everything pretty consistently. And then you're going to also grab Flickering Arc Lash. This is going to enhance your movement speed. And that's going to be a big key with this build. You're going to want to jump in and out of combat as often as possible because of the way the build works and how you're going to be able to clear enemies relatively quickly doing so. Then I'm going to proceed on down. I like to grab Teleport next, although you can go Ice Armor if you're having a problem staying alive. But for me, I didn't have that issue, so that's why I went Teleport first. Again, if I can jump into combat, use the Teleport, and just start wrecking enemies with Arc Lash, that's going to work out just fine for me. But then I'll grab Ice Armor for additional survivability, and then finally Frost Nova for that crowd control. This is going to freeze enemies in an area, and again, that combination, you can teleport in, Frost Nova, use Ice Armor if you have to stay alive, use your Chain Lightning, and it just kind of rinse and repeat at that point. From there, we are going to also grab the Enhanced Teleport, enhanced Ice Armor, and then also enhanced Frost Nova, because we're going to be grabbing those eventually anyway, and that'll just be the perfect opportunity to have those and really level up your abilities. Then I'm also going to get 2 more slots in Chain Lightning to get me to level 15. And this is where things start to get really spicy with this build, because you get your first enchantment slot. Make sure you do that quest on a Sorcerer as soon as possible to get that enchantment slot, because it makes a massive difference. From there, I'm going to grab Fireball. This is not going to be actually equipped on my hotbar, but is going to be in my enchantment slot. When you kill an enemy, they explode in a fireball of 50% of its damage. This is awesome. When you use your Frost Nova and then you use your Arc Flash to kill a couple enemies, they're just going to start exploding in fireballs everywhere. It is very, very good. From there, I'm actually going to swap as well my enchantments whenever I go from mob areas to boss areas in order to swap to the Chain Lightning enchantment. That is going to form automatically after spending 100 mana. So essentially, as you're casting your Chain Lightnings, you're going to get additional Chain Lightnings sent out as well. So that's why you'll swap between those, because you only have one enchantment slot at that point. And yeah, then I'm going to grab my additional abilities. You can grab Glass Cannon here if you're comfortable enough, but for me, I went with my Shimmering Teleport for that extra damage resistant. I went down to get my mystical Frost Nova to make enemies vulnerable. This works out very well, especially against bosses. For that 6 seconds of vulnerable is quite a long time. And then I also got my Mystical Ice Armor. Damage against vulnerable enemies contributes 50 more percent towards Ice Armor barrier. So again, that just is a nice combo. You can use those all together. And then from there, that's when I'm going to grab my triple Glass Cannon, because my survivability is going to be up a lot higher there for my Ice Armor as well as my teleport damage resistance. So I can increase my damage here. And while I will take more damage because I have that survivability, the damage reduction, it doesn't really matter all that much. And I'm able to stay alive pretty easily. And keeping that note in mind, I'm also going to go down and grab Align the Elements and then Protection times 3. So using a cooldown grants 30% of your maximum life as a barrier for 2 seconds. Now, all of my abilities so far outside of Chain Lightning are those cooldowns. So my Frost Nova, my Ice Armor, and my Teleport all count as cooldowns. So I'm going to get a barrier every time I use one of those, and hopefully I'm using those very, very quickly. So that's why I went in that direction, and it just works out really well for me. I really like that kind of combination, and that's the reason I went in that direction. Then I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to get a couple more slots in my Chain Lightning. Again, this works out very well for me. Personally, I do like that as well. I also will grab a Devastation because I do want my increased mana, as well as an elemental dominance for increased damage when cast above 50% or above 50 mana, because that works out well. At level 30, that's when you're going to get your second enchantment slot, and you can kind of swap between whichever ones you want. For me, I do like still using Chain Lightning, but I also will grab one level in Firebolt here because Firebolt's enchantment is really nice. Direct damage from skills applies additional 23% burning damage over 8 seconds. So that's going to really be nice against bosses specifically, and really any types of enemies. Doing additional burning damage is going to be very, very nice. And yeah, that's the direction I go with my enchantments personally. You can kind of look through and see what enchantments you like to use, but Fireball, Chain Lightning, and Firebolt are some of my favorites, alongside Blizzard, but it doesn't really do as much in this build specifically, so that's why I didn't go in that direction. From there, I'm going to go on down, and we are going to grab our ultimate unstable currents. I'm going to grab Prime as well as Supreme. This is going to be awesome. This whole build with unstable current is absolutely insane. I love using this. It is so very good, and really I want to use this as often as possible. So that's why I'm also going to come down here and get Veer's Mastery. Close enemies take 10% increased damage. Teleport in. Use your shock skills. It's just very, very good combination, and I absolutely love it. So that's why I'm going in that direction. And then I'm also going to grab Coursing Currents, as well as Conduction, Electrocution, and then I'm also going to grab, I skip Convulsions. I grab Electrocution times 3 because of the way that I made the build. This actually just works out a lot better for me personally. And yeah, enemies dealing 15% less damage for 5 seconds after being critically struck is just very, very nice. So from there, it's kind of up in the air what direction you want to really go as far as your abilities. I just start upgrading them personally, but also I'm going to grab things like Mana Shield. Again, additional damage reduction. So you can really combine a lot of these skills to get increased damage reduction all the time, and that's why I like this build so much. The damage reduction is going to work out very, very well in my opinion, and keep you alive pretty consistently. So from there, we have 16 more slots. You can kind of pump them whatever direction you want to go in. I honestly like elemental attunement here, because now that I'm really focusing on those critical strikes, I'm going to want my critical strike chance up, and reset the cooldown of one of my defensive skills, which is very nice. Because obviously that plays effect into all of these here, which is just a perfect combination in my opinion. Then we can also grab additional slots of Ice Armor or Frost Nova if you want. I personally like to go with Frost Nova to decrease that cooldown and really get my Frost Nova doing as much as possible, because you're going to see why. I got a aspect that I use pretty much all the time now on my this build that really made Frost Nova go up a notch and be significantly better than what it was before. So with 9 skills left, you can kind of buff everything that else that you want to. So Arc Lash is one that I kind of max out just because I am using it so consistently even at the higher levels. So that's why I'm going to jump that up really high there. And then before I'm going to come on back down and really go my Ice Armor maxed out before getting a little bit more in my teleport. So that's the build that I made personally. Again, lots of damage reduction, lots of movement speed, lots of reasons to be excited about this thing. And then going into my skills. So there's a lot of different aspects to be looking for, like Snow Veiled, Aspect of Might. The Frozen Wake is very, very, very nice. But this is the one that I use the most, Frost Split's Aspect. Frost Nova gains an additional charge, but the cooldown per charge is increased. So the cooldown increase could be annoying, but that's why I maxed out my Frost Nova personally, because the cooldown is still low enough that having the second charge actually makes it combine with the build a lot better. So that's why I went in that direction personally. I've also got aspect of the bounding conduit. Again, when you're level 50, 1 to 50, you're not really farming any of these. So you kind of got to rely on getting a little bit lucky. But it can change the way you approach the build, what you kind of put your skills into. So that's why I went in the direction that I did. I've seen some other builds where you can actually, instead of grabbing some additional charges in like Arc Lash, for example, or in your Frost Nova, you can actually get additional abilities down here that can be very good as well. You look at your Fiery Surge, and this is really for your enchantments because you don't have really a fire based build, so you can increase your mana regeneration by a lot. This can be very effective as you're using Fireball and Firebolt, so keep that in mind, but that's just not something that I really wanted to use personally. You can also come up here and use your Permafrost skills. But again, I just don't think they're as effective, especially because I'm not using my frost skills to do heavy amounts of damage. I don't really need to increase that damage. I just want to freeze more enemies with my Frost Nova. So that's why it's all really focused here on my lightning abilities. Anyway, I'd love to hear what you guys think of my build, the breakdown, all that kind of good stuff. Whether you are using this build or not, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Sorcerer in general. I've loved it. It's been a class that I've really enjoyed using. Played through the entire game, beat the campaign, all that kind of good stuff. I have changed my build up for the mid levels as I got into World Tier 3. So I'll have another guide on my current build as well. But anyway, my name is Jopa. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel. It helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Diablo 4 content from me going forward. I would really, really appreciate it. My name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one. And I'll catch you all later.